Gaudete Christus es natus, ex Maria Virgine gaudete.
So welcome to another episode of the Rediscovery Channel. This week with myself, Stilger, and my good friend Ivor. And Ivor, this week I want to do a few short, innovative weapons throughout history that I want to discuss with you.
All right.
And the first one is called the Kettering bug. Have you ever heard of it?
The Kettering bug. It sounds familiar, but I don't know what it is.
All right, so here we go. This is the first one. And these are all inspired by the recent innovations of drone warfare that we're seeing in the world. And I wanted to look at, what are some examples throughout history of innovative designs other than the bat bomb? So the Kettering bug is actually an American innovation. It was invented by Charles Franklin Kettering, an American inventor with some interesting ideas. He was born in 1876 in Ohio, and he was already well known during World War One, thanks to his invention of the electric self-starter for automobiles, which eliminated the need for all those hand cranking that you saw in some of the old.
Yeah, I've
You see in some of the old black and white
footage
movies.
of that. I got a question. Is this electric self-starter? Is it a battery or like the forerunner to the battery?
I'm guessing it's some kind of some electric or battery powered. I didn't look into that, but it would have to be. But you have a lot of those old black and white movies where you see somebody like the lady has the man swinging it, because you have to literally swing this what would you call it, like this metal device to get the engine going.
The crank.
Because then once it starts turning and the cylinder start firing, you'll get electricity to keep it going. But yeah, anyway, you need an electric motor to get it going. So yeah, that was one of his inventions. And then in 1917 he went to the U.S. Army Signal Corps. To work on an aerial torpedo, so a pilotless weapon that could strike enemy targets from a distance. He worked together with a group of engineers, like Elmer Sperry, who was a gyroscope pioneer, and Orville Wright. And then what they did is they created this small device. So the airframe was like a miniature biplane, 12 foot long, with a 15-foot wingspan, built from wood and fabric. It weighed just 530 pounds, so that's like just over 200 kilos, including its bomb payload, making it light enough to launch without a runway. And then the engine was like a 40 horsepower, 4-cylinder Ford engine, giving it a top speed of 50 miles an hour, about 80 kilometers an hour, because it was a reliable and affordable engine. And then for the guidance systems, they used this gyroscope, thanks to Sperry's expertise to keep it stable in flight. And then a mechanical autopilot, which is basically was a clockwork device paired with a barometer to control its path. And then before launch, engineers calculated the number of engine revolutions, so turns needed to reach the target based on wind speed and distance. And then once that count was hit, the engine would shut off, the wings detached, and the bug would plummet, and then dropping its 180-pound explosive payload. So that's basically it. And then the launch mechanism was basically they use a catapult using a 4-wheel dolly on a portable rail track, a method that was later used to as a missile launcher. So the first test started in 1918 at McCook Field in Dayton, Ohio, and it was quite difficult for the where they were at the time. Some of them they went off course, and some of them crashed shortly after launch. So they had to tweak it a lot to get the gyroscope and engine timing to get accuracy. But the cost at the time was around $400 for each unit, which would translate to around $7,000 in today's economy. So basically peanuts. And it was called the Bug because it had this like buzzing engine, and because of the size, it was reminded the inventor of an insect. And the idea was that this could be used to spare lives. Anyway, but basically it was an early form of a drone.
Did they ever
So
use it? Did they hit anybody
mhm.
with it?
No, it never saw combat. So World War I ended in November 1918, just as testing was just about ready. But they did get it to fly successfully in trials, hitting targets up to 75 miles away. But the real legacy was more inspirational because it proved unmanned flight could work. And actually, the method of how it worked with the gyroscope, it influenced later projects like Germany's V1 buzz bomb in World War II. So, yeah. Do you know anything about the V1?
No. No,
Okay.
I know that like during World War One, the Germans built a huge gun just to shoot at Paris from like a long distance. They were launching shells. I think it was probably like the world's biggest gun
Well,
ever. They call it the
yes,
Paris
that's
gun.
a whole different episode, and we should probably do that one as well.
Yeah.
But the V1 is one that I really fascinated. I was really into World War II documentaries, especially the weaponry they had.
Wait, it's a rocket, right? The V1?
It it is a rocket, but it's
Okay.
not like the V2. So the V2 is the one that basically NASA's the space program is based on.
Mm-hmm.
So that one is launched like you would launch most of the weapons nowadays, right? So it's standing upright, and then it was actually, I think it was liquid fuel propelled, but it would basically go up, and I think the first rockets they used to get into space, they were all designed by Werner von Braun. These are all based on the V2. But the V2 had a little brother and predecessor called the V1 flying bomb.
Mm-hmm.
And this was called the buzz bomb. So this was developed by Nazi Germany during World War II by engineer Robert Lusser, together with the Fieseler company, under the direction of the German Luftwaffe. It was developed in 1942, and it was it's a desperate innovation to strike Allied cities without risking pilots, because even though the Luftwaffe had air superiority at the beginning of the war, they quickly lost it, and they started losing more and more pilots trying to on their bombing runs to London. So the V1 was a bit about its design and mechanics. It was a simple airframe with straight wings and a fuselage housing an 850 kilo, so 1,870 pounds warhead. So that's actually quite heavy.
It's like the size of a car. Or the weight of
Yeah,
a
and if
car.
you look at the weight of the explosive, that is actually similar to the FAB 3000 that the Russians are using today. Like that's their heaviest bomb that they're using, that they've turned into a glider bomb. I could talk a little bit more about that as well. But that's a heavy explosive. If you look at the Hellfire missile that is on the now I can't think of the name of the drones that's most common, the Predator drone in the US.
Mm-hmm.
That one is only 100 kilos. So this one, the V1, actually was like 8 times, more than 8 times. The explosive was more than 8 times as strong as the one on there. Of course, explosive have also developed in. It's not just the weight; it's also the type of chemicals you use. But regardless, so it was propulsed by a pulse jet engine, which is actually very interesting. It's a design by itself. It's not continuously in use, so it's more like short bursts of energy, where you ignite, you fill a chamber with gas or fuel, you ignite it, you get like a short burst, and then you stop again, and then you do the same process over and over again. So it's kind of like a predecessor to, later on rockets or. Anyway, it was very simple design, but very efficient. And again, the guidance was using a gyroscope, so similar to the bug, for stability, and then a magnetic compass for direction. And then it had a anemometer to measure distance. And it was launched from ramps or aircraft. And then it would fly a preset course until its engine cut off, driving into its target. And these were first deployed against London in June 13, 1944, so quite late into the war. And over 9,500 V1s were launched, killing thousands and instilling widespread fear, even though only about 25% hit their intended targets due to poor accuracy.
But I
But it was
mean,
mostly.
even with poor
Hmm?
accuracy, if your goal is to harm and terrorize the enemy, like if you're hitting a civilian target like London, then even if they miss the target, you're still kind of hitting the target because it's landing in London, right?
Yeah, and it's mostly psychological warfare, similar to what you see nowadays on X or Twitter, where one time Ukraine has a big attack on Moscow, and then they celebrate it as a victory, and then the next day there's an attack of the Russia on Kiev, and that is celebrated as so. It's a lot of it is of course psychological in nature.
But those enemies during, World War I and World War II were more evenly matched. Like it was mostly a war between equals, whereas the Ukraine Russia thing is it's like a toddler attacking like a basketball player. It
Well, I
might
mean, if
hurt
you
you,
look at
but
the country size, but the Ukraine, of course, is supported by all of NATO.
yeah, it's a proxy
So if you
war.
look at it
Doesn't
that
matter.
way, it's almost like Russia would be the toddler, and it's still winning, which is surprising, despite all that effort and all that money and all those weapons coming from the West. But I want to go to the next weapon.
Hmm.
It's called the Bayraktar TB2.
I have no
Ever heard of
idea.
it?
No.
Okay, so the Bayraktar is quite famous through the Ukrainian war, but also it played a huge role in a different war. But I'll go back to that later on. So this is a drone. It's the brainchild of Selçuk Bayraktar, who was the chief technology officer of Baykar
Is it
Makina.
is it from Iran or
No, it's from Turkey, and
okay?
this guy, I think he's actually married like one of Erdogan's daughters, who came with this. But he came from MIT, where he may or may not have stolen drone technology from the U.S. And it gave Turkey an indigenous unmanned combat aerial vehicle, so basically a drone. Something about its design and mechanics. It's a medium altitude, long endurance drone with a 12-meter, 39-foot wingspan. It's powered by a Rotax 912 engine, whatever that means. think it's just a propeller engine. They do have jet versions and stealth versions coming up as well.
Hmm.
And it carries up to 4 laser-guided munitions, and especially good against armor and fortifications. And it has electro-optical and infrared cameras and laser designators for precision strikes. And the TB2 actually changed the face of warfare during the 2020 Nagorno-Karabakh conflict, which was between, come on, Ivor, the Karabakh conflict.
Between,
Any idea?
I don't know. I'm guessing it's Turkey and maybe the Kurds.
Well, it is close. It was in that general area. It's between the Armenians and Azerbaijan.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so Azerbaijan has a lot of oil and a lot of money. Armenia does not. And Azerbaijan basically has been buying a lot of weapons, including these drones from Turkey, and as well as a lot of Israeli drones as well. And they were able to use those to defeat the Armenians, which led to, well, the expulsion of I think over 100,000 people from an area that has been populated by the Armenians for like well over 1,000 years.
Maybe longer than
Um,
that. I think
yeah, but
the Armenians are actually part of the original ancient Indo-European spread, because in the
yeah,
very ancient world, like when Rome was not even a city, but like I guess 7 cities on 7 hills, whatever it was. Um, the Indo-European population stretched all the way to like what we would call Western China today, and also to India, and well, like Afghanistan. Of course, back then it wasn't called Afghanistan, but think about it, man. Like that used to be Eastern Europe, and then basically all kinds of Turks and other groups kind of invaded, and it
yeah.
was severed, like the continuity severed. But the Armenians, I'm pretty sure. I mean, we're gonna have to research this, but I'm pretty sure they've always been there for like thousands of
They've
years.
always been there. They've always been there.
Yeah,
And
probably the
so
first
anyway,
people there.
they were aligned to they were relying a lot on Russia, and they thought that Russia would be capable of defending them. Russia did not come to their defense. I think Russia in the end ended up picking the side of Azerbaijan due to tactical reasons as well,
That's pathetic.
and of course also because Russia already has other priorities. But yeah, this drone was highly efficient in this in this conflict, um, and it really changed like the mindsets of people. Actually, Armenia is now looking to potentially join NATO because of this. But also the Bayraktar was very efficient early on in the war against between Ukraine and Russia, destroying a lot of Russian tanks, even patrol boats, and their price around 5 million a unit was quite cheap. Um, so they were very successful early on in the war, although now they found proper countermeasures to it, so it doesn't play as much as a role anymore. So I want to go now to the final innovation of warfare, which is that I wanted to discuss for tonight, the last one. What do you think is the most successful drone right now used in warfare that's changing the rules of the game?
I don't know, man. I haven't been following in the same way that you have. I can't even
Yeah, it's
guess.
okay. Yeah, so it's actually a DJI Mavic,
Okay.
which is kind of like your $400 drone you can buy on Temu or Alibaba. Uh, or actually there's retail stores as well. So that's the DJI Mavic was created by DJI, a Chinese company known for consumer drones, and originally it was intended for photography and recreation, and they're really good for that. If you want to do like out area, or if you want to like, you can do really cool stuff with it, like follow my car and all kinds of stuff, which is great for if you're a videographer.
Hmm.
But similar technology can also be used, when you strap a bomb to it.
Right.
And then it turns into extremely efficient killing device. So it's design and mechanics. It's a compact quadcopter with foldable arms and a 4K camera on a gimbal. And then the modifications and enhanced with 3D printed attachments to drop grenades or small explosives, or just have an explosive tied to it to make it go kamikaze. And then it's a lightweight, portable, and user-friendly, controlled via smartphone apps. So yeah, these are actually they're costing just 2,000, so actually they're quite expensive nowadays. And they are playing a huge role on both sides of the war, um, where it's completely changing the face of war. Also, like in terms of like reconnaissance, like they become especially effective if you combine artillery together with these drones, which is not new. In the past, they've even used air balloons. I think that goes back all the way to the Napoleonic Wars, even before, where they would use air balloons to get like strategic information about where to basically point their guns at. But yeah, those are four. I think I had four of technologies that I wanted to discuss for this episode. And I think it's interesting to see how this is changing the rules of the game. And I wonder, like we just had Operation Spiderweb, I think it was called, where Ukrainian drones were trucked into like deep into Russia.
Yeah,
Um,
that is called Operation Spiderweb. That much I do know, where they blew up the
yeah,
Russian planes that were
they
the
were parked
bombers,
on the
right?
runways,
Yeah,
and this is something that it doesn't really take that much. This is something that anybody could do. Really, like you don't need a ton of money, and it's like YouTube science that is being used to program these drones. So I think this will create this will change the rules of the game, um, and I think until there is an efficient anti-drone technology, which there isn't one today, like the efficient way to shoot them down is using anti-air missiles. But the issue with that is that those missiles cost hundreds of thousands of dollars, whereas a drone, only costs, well, let's say 2,000.
you know what they'll
But
probably use to shoot them down, Stilgar?
mm,
Directed energy weapons, like because then you have like a gun, because they already use lasers for targeting. Like you can uh,
yeah,
get
they're using some lasers now. They're actually active in the battlefield. The problem is that there's not that many around.
yeah,
And
that's
you do need to have a direct line of sight. And these drones, these FPV drones, they're operated like you have these glasses on, and if you've ever seen like an FPV race, they're highly maneuverable, so they can stay low to the ground, and they can sneak up on any kind of laser device. I don't think there's going to be. They said, well, it's going to be jamming and stuff, but now a lot of the drones are using fiber optic cables, so all the signals are going through a wire. Good luck jamming that. You're not going to be able to. Of course, you can still the internal instruments, but you're probably going to have to be a lot closer. Um, so I really wonder I haven't seen like a convincing solution yet. One thing I think might be going in the direction is that the Russians have them, but I imagine probably others will come with them too. Is actually a drone that hunts the other drone. So you'll have like this drone like staking out or looking for something, and then what the Russians are doing now is they have a drone that's extremely fast, and basically what it does is it uses just a camera to identify where the other drone is, and then it will fly at it like with incredible speeds and just like fly into it, and then just crashing both drones that way. So you may go to a place where you have like AI guided
Yeah.
drones doing aerial combat in the not too distant future.
Like that
So
episode of Voyager where one side builds a robot army and the other side builds a robot army, and it's like the Prelor versus the, I forget what the other guys were called, but they just kept fighting. And then when their creators finally struck a truce, the robots were, they killed the creators. They were like, "No, we're going to keep fighting because we haven't won the war yet." All right,
yeah,
all this. Uh, I do think probably lasers or some other type of directed energy weapon will be used to take these things down. Now, like Israel has their Iron Dome it's like an anti-missile defense system, and maybe we're going to get something similar for the United States, which would be mega expensive. But I think with drones, I think that assuming that we don't go into another dark age, the the next thing or what they're going to work towards is just directed energy weapons, so that mainly the only thing you have to keep producing is energy, and you don't have to make like a new missile. Because like let's say Israel gets hit with like, I mean, they can stop a lot of missiles, but eventually like those missiles will be exhausted. But if you have like a directed energy weapon, and then you have like a nuclear fusion power plant or something like that, then you can just keep blasting things as they come. I mean, every time, like one thing I've noticed historically is every time that a new weapon comes out, a new defense is created. And then that
yeah.
causes people
I
to
think
make like another
I
new
think that
weapon.
yeah, and I think that's where we are at right now. So I think I don't even know. Like maybe it's a directed energy kind of weapon, or maybe it's something completely different.
They've
But I think
already,
we're gonna see a lot of different like innovative ways of combining this drone technology, AI technology. They're battery powered, so that makes them extremely light. Um, Even though they're short range, they're extremely light and portable. And I think the rules of warfare they're gonna change, and it's gonna have a real direct impact on what the world looks like.
so think about this. They've already tested uh, directed energy weapons on. I talked about this on one of my personal channels, but they mounted a laser cannon, like a destructive laser cannon, on a ship, like a ship, ocean going ship, and they use it to destroy already like a missile or a drone or something, and it hits pretty hard. But the problem is that the amount of energy required makes it so that it has to be like a big mounted weapon. Of course, this was like quite a few years ago when I came across this information. So it might be better now. But you think about it, when guns were introduced, they were like big, huge. Like okay, during the war, what is it? The 100 Years' War between England and France. Um, they were already using. It was still the Middle Ages, but they were starting to use mortars. So when it came out, like just with gunpowder guns, they were originally too big for the soldiers to carry and be personally armed with them. And they, of course, took too long to reload. So they were used, but there was still a lot of melee combat and people wearing full armor and everything like that. Um, but then, as they were miniaturized, as the technology improved, they're miniaturized, and soldiers are able to carry them individually. And then the next improvement is how long it takes to reload and how many bullets it can have. And then eventually we get to machine guns. So I kind of see like with directed energy weapons, they're going to start off big, and then eventually it'll come down to like a handheld thing, or
Yeah,
something
let's see.
that's
I think
mounted.
that's very linear though, because it's like one technology and they just keep improving it. And I think that what you have, like for example in Star Trek, right? They have phasers,
Yes.
and basically they're fighting, or when it comes to like combat, at least like person to person combat, it looks a lot like they're in the Wild West, basically.
But
Which, if you think about it, is ridiculous because I don't think the improvement of, like, if you have all that technology, you can start combining things. You have AI, you have holographic projections, you have force fields, um, you have all these incredible technology out there, and yet you're still shooting at each other like you're Billy the Kid. Uh,
they do use force fields though. Also, that like
yeah,
force fields are the defense against the energy weapons. But if you notice, like okay, Star Trek, I'm not saying is the most realistic thing, even though I do like it. But
but it's like the linear kind of progression of weapons. Like, oh, but then we'll have like a phaser which will fit in your pocket, but you can like melt rocks with it because it's so powerful. But I think there are some, like, and now we're going to go into Star Trek territory. Maybe we shouldn't, but there are some episodes with Star Trek Enterprise, for example,
mm,
where they use very different technologies altogether. Like, I think there's one episode where it's like they shoot, like, I think some kind of goo, and then the goo ends up like it's kind of like a mine, or like it's activated. Anyway, there's I think it would look very very different
well,
altogether. Yeah,
we can't actually predict 100%. Like we can't know what it's going to look like in the future. But think about this: the Old Kingdom, Egypt, the average soldier had no armor at all. In fact, they usually didn't even wear a shirt. But this was
yeah,
the most powerful kingdom in the Middle East and in Africa. And when the
yeah.
composite,
And actually, we're going back to that.
well,
All these they're creating now. The U.S. is creating drone hunting units, and they're basically like almost zero armor, extremely lightweight, and extremely mobile.
so
Because the
we already
mhm.
went back to it in the 1800s. So like when guns came out, it made all the armor useless. When guns were, small enough and practical enough, then eventually all the armor came off, right?
Yeah,
But
except for armored tanks and stuff. But
and there
yes,
were no
yeah.
tanks in the what tank? Not, there were no tanks in the 1800s or the
No, no.
1700s.
I mean,
But
no. But the armor came back in World War I.
it's
I would say. Yeah,
right, and also World War I, the soldiers started wearing helmets to protect them from shrapnel, but the helmets they had couldn't protect them from bullets. Now we have a situation where soldiers are almost they're wearing a lot of armor again, but depending on where technology goes, I think it's going to go towards. Obviously, drones are becoming more important, but I bet you'll see like lasers mounted on the drones and laser systems used to knock them out of the air, or some kind of directed energy weapon. So you think about something like Star Trek. Of course, it's fiction, but it's also there. It also is kind of they take into account like some real world assumptions that if again they're back to a place where they have uniforms. They don't have any armor, but they have uniforms, and their uniforms basically fulfill the same purpose of uniforms during the 1700s, where they don't give you any protection, and they don't even give you camouflage, but it's just so that you know that this guy's a soldier and which side he's with. So I think, I wouldn't be surprised if at some point in the future, with the way technology is changing, it might get back to that where human soldiers don't aren't wearing armor or camouflage again for a while. Like it might just be uniforms that totally clash with the terrain, but it's just so that you can tell the rank and which group they're
yeah,
with, and then maybe there'll be less humans on the battlefield because of automation, but there'll still be a lot of humans getting killed because whoever loses, they're going to get destroyed by these machines. I mean, maybe they'll just send the machines to wipe everybody out in the area so they can move their own people in.
Well, and I think that the thing is, the interesting part is when you start combining different technologies. So I think now, like part of it is like using all these lightweight battery powered devices. I mean, who knows what kind of solutions you're going to get for the drone issue. Right now, there isn't a. I saw a video the other day of a Ukrainian drone flying through the forest, and it was one of those fiber optic drones. And the Russian soldier was in wait, and basically as it passed, he ran up, and then he found the wire and he cut it with scissors. And then you see the drone like exploding, like I don't know, in yards, maybe 100 yards, 20 meters away or something like that.
Did the soldier
So,
die in the explosion?
no, no.
Okay.
So yeah, I wonder. It's. I think it's gonna. There's crazy times, but with that, I'd like to say thank you to everybody that listened. And if you like this kind of content, please give us a like. Let us know how you think things are going to change. I have some ideas, but I'm not going to give them here. I think there are ideas. Maybe we should do an episode about potential anti-drone technology,
Yeah, let's
or
do something
mm,
like that. Would make great bonus content where
yeah,
speculative stuff we could release as bonus content. I want to say one more thing though. Um, Revelation chapter 9, if anybody's still listening, talks about some creatures, and I'll just it talks about here, and seeing like some of the drones. I saw a video on YouTube of some Chinese drones, and it made me think of this. Um, let's see. And the shapes of the locusts were like unto horses, prepared unto battle. And on their heads were, as it were, crowns like gold, and their faces were as the faces of men. And they had hair as the hair of women, and their teeth were as the teeth of lions. And they had breastplates, as it were, breastplates of iron. And the sound of their wings was as the sound of chariots of many horses running to battle. And they had tails like unto scorpions, and there were stings in their tails, and their power was to hurt men 5 months. So it also says that these things will not harm uh, the plants. Okay, here. And it was commanded them that they should not hurt the grass of the earth, neither any green thing, neither any tree, but only those men which have not the seal of God on their forehead. So I don't know what these things are, but it could be that it's something like spiritual. But as technology progresses and we see new stuff and weird stuff, like stuff that I didn't even think about when I was a kid, um, it makes me think that maybe this is like some kind of future weapon that would be unleashed in the world. Because if it really was just a insect, or like an actual locust, it's going to eat the plants and stuff. But some of these drones that they're producing now, they look kind of insectoid. So
yeah.
I
Who
was just
knows?
thinking about that. Like, it wasn't my plan originally to bring that up, but when you were talking about all these drones and things, it got me thinking about that again. Um,
Maybe it has a 5 month battery. I don't know. It's a, yeah, I
uh,
don't know if it's for 5 months. Like, could be because you do actually have like some like super powered like nuclear based batteries and stuff. Anyway, I don't know.
yeah, that
Yeah,
could be what it is, Stilgar. It could be
but if yeah, but
somebody's
I don't know. I
doomsday
don't know much
weapon.
about Revelation. Maybe we should do a story book about or like an episode about Revelation sometime.
Yeah, maybe as bonus content. Yeah, we can do that.
All right, cool. Well, with that, hope to see you guys in the next one.
Yep. See you guys in the next one. Great. All right. Let me close it. Let me end this recording. Stop.